Welcome to the Whole Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you become a fat burner, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey everybody, it's Debbie Potts, the host of the Whole Athlete / the Whole Triathlete podcast. Keep kind of talking more towards the triathlete, how you can become a fat burning machine today as a triathlete. We're talking with my friend Stephanie Holbrook, who's the founder of KetoEndurance. And Stephanie and I met at the Superhuman Coach program. We were doing, that was 2012.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
It was a while ago, but we still have kept in touch over the years. It's 2018 and coming to an end soon. And we finally are reconnecting on the podcast today. So thanks, Steph, for coming on my show to share your story.
No problem, Debbie. I'm so excited to be on your show. I'm going to have you on my podcast called KetoEndurance, which is a similar podcast where I obsessed a little too much about nutrition. But I'm excited to be here.
Well, that's kind of what we both kind of went from our Superhuman Coach experience and went on starting our own businesses in the triathlon world. And we both have our own stories, mine with my adrenal issues, fatigue, and Life is Not a Race book, and the holistic method, all based on that. You know, we're both in the fitness background, and, you know, we can't get results from just training people with exercise by itself. So I think we have similar passions, and we have that similar purpose that we're trying to help you, the triathlete, an athlete of any level, and to optimize your health for daily life, that there's so much more than just exercising. And I just came off a functional diagnostic nutrition conference this weekend, so my brains is overloaded. So we're going to let you just give all these truth bombs out. So let's start with your story and how you got to be the keto endurance queen.
My story, well, let me start out when I decided I was going to train for a marathon with a charity training group. My son had started kindergarten, and I thought, I am going to get in shape. And I just knew that if I could run far enough and fast enough, by the time I got to that finish line, I would be a skinny mini.
We all think that, right? Let's do an Ironman. I'm going to lose, because 3,500 calories equals 1 pound. So why wouldn't we just be tiny itty bitties?
Yes, I was going to be a tiny itty bitty training for a marathon. I followed the typical low-fat, high carbohydrate diet recommended to most endurance athletes. In fact, I went so extreme. I was like, I am going to do almost no fat, and I'm going to try to do it on 1,200 calories, and I'm going to look so good. Training for that marathon, that is not what happened. I don't even have pictures of me crossing the finish line because they are so horrible. I was so puffy, so inflamed, very fat. I wasn't any leaner when I ran that marathon than whenever I started. And that was 2004. I started training in 2003 with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And the marathon was the P.F. Chang's Rock and Roll Marathon. I crossed the finish line, and I did fine in the event, but I just looked like, you could look at the pictures, and I was so puffy, just this like horrible chronic inflammation. And then I thought, well, shoot, that didn't make me skinny, so maybe I needed to do something else. I went into triathlon, and then I went into cycling. And further as I went along, I decided, well, those things aren't going to work. I'm going to do an ultra marathon, and I'm going to eat a vegan diet like Scott Jurek, which was pretty much the nail in the coffin for my health. And I was a train wreck. It took me 8 years to dig myself out of that hole. I followed a vegan / vegetarian diet for about 18 months. And what happened was I ended up tearing the tendon in my foot. I couldn't completely from the bone. I had to have platelet-rich plasma to fix it. Yeah. Oh. And I had asthma before, but it became, instead of exercise-induced asthma, it became chronic all the time asthma. I had horrible allergies. I was on $80 a month of co-pays for medication. Mm-hmm. And I thought, this is not right. I got referred to a functional medicine doctor, a naturopath doctor, and she took my hormones. She's like, you have no hormones. The estrogen was not readable on the test. My testosterone and progesterone were all low. And I really started searching for what is going on with my body, because I had been told if I just exercise enough and don't eat very much, I was going to end up skinny. And I didn't end up skinny. I was still fat, and I was very broken. And that was training for ultramarathon. I have a picture of the start line at Leadville, Silver Rush 50-mile ultramarathon. I weighed 193 pounds. 193 pounds. I'm 5'5". I was a chunky monkey. This was eating a vegan diet.
You're healthy.
And I'm supposed to be healthy.
Yeah.
And so that's when I really I started searching. I found Paul Chek in the Chek Institute. And I went and did his courses. And I really realized, a lot of that I had been told was really wrong. I found Ben Greenfield, and you found Ben Greenfield. And that's where I learned a lot of stuff. And then at the Ben Greenfield Become Superhuman conference where we met, I met Peter Defty, and we became good friends. And I actually went to work for Peter for a while and learned a lot more about nutrient timing. And then I started this low carb approach, and I started losing weight. I finally healed. My hormones are now normal, and my asthma is gone, and my allergies are gone. I'm very healthy. I still have a little extra padding, but I'm 30 pounds lighter. So I'm still not skinny mini, but I am much healthier, and I have a good quality of life that I did not have before.
You have good energy through the day. Yes. And sleep soundly.
Yes, all those wonderful things. Yeah. And I think something that I would like to note to people who are on this journey, in this process, that healing can take a long time. Mm-hmm. And that it's hard to be patient, but as long as you're feeling better, then that's a big step. Now that I feel so good all the time, I'm 49, and I feel healthier than I ever have in my life. I followed a low-fat diet for most of my life, eating all kinds of quote-unquote healthy whole grains, and I don't ever remember a time when I was growing up that I felt good. And now I feel good every day. I'm not comfortable wearing a bikini on the beach yet, but I do feel good every day.
That is a great story. And I think, there's so many people who can relate to that story. And that's probably what you do. And that's similar to my story of fatigue and 5 years rebuilding and healing and learning about yourself. And that we're both examples of it's so individual. And everybody's body's different, genetic makeup, ancestral background, your microbiome. There's so much going on that we can't just say one size fits all. It doesn't work to exercise more, eat less. And we've both proven that. And we both started realizing, okay, this isn't working. Let me think outside the box, which brought us to a journey that's similar. We've crossed paths doing the Chek Institute Holistic Lifestyle Coach Program and the Superhuman Coach Program and other things that I think, we are trying to share this message to everybody that there is so much more to being healthy. Just because you can do a triathlon, a 50K, and train for a race doesn't mean you're healthy. And I think we have to, what I think I'm finding myself wanting to share more on the show is different ways you can do these things and not burn yourself out and be broken, as we both have experienced that, it's taken me 5 years and I'm still working on getting better, and it is a long haul, and I don't want anyone to have to go through that. But every day I see people and I talk to people that are on the verge of, doing too much every day and living life as a race. So with that, let's kind of dive into what you've created, this very impressive program and business for yourself, coaching athletes to help them work on being a healthy endurance athlete. So talk about what you've created and what you do.
Right. So what I do, I have a course that I just launched, and I can give you a link and a coupon code for your listeners if they're interested. It's how to plan your training season. And something that I have developed for my clients is sort of matching up the periodized training plan that many people follow to match their nutrition, that you modulate your training through the season. You don't base build, or you don't do prep during the whole year. You don't train hard all the time, or you shouldn't. You should not train hard. You should have a little bit of an off season. And I match the nutrition requirements according to people's goals to their periodized nutrition. And I use Training Peaks. I believe you use Training Peaks too.
Yes.
Training Peaks, if you use the annual training plan, it's super simple to figure out how to match your nutrition to your program. I hope most people are following a prep period. And a prep period is where you're really identifying muscle imbalances. You're going to have a little bit of strength training. You're not doing targeted, specialized training. You're just preparing your body to train. And during this phase, you're going to want to follow a full ketogenic diet. This is pretty much the same for everybody. And when I refer to a ketogenic diet, I'm referring to a diet where your body is producing ketones. This is pretty individual. Some people can produce ketones eating 200 calories of 200 grams of carbohydrates a day. Some people need less than 10. It depends on you and your insulin resistance and your genetic factors, how stressed out you are, a lot of those things. I typically don't recommend that people test their ketones unless they have a very specific problem that they're trying to address. But otherwise, just following a lower carbohydrate diet, low training.
Blood sugar at all, or just
you know what? It depends on the person's goals. So I'll use an example. I have a client who has a very hard time losing weight. He's pretty insulin resistant, and we tested his blood sugar and his ketones to find out where he's at, and to really match what's going on with his training volume compared to his blood sugar and his blood ketones. And I have an athlete who was training for the Leadville Trail 100 mountain bike race, and we just cut back his carbs for 2 weeks, and then to really sensitize him, and then started adding them back in at certain times, and he did not test his ketones. So it's a pretty individual, and it depends on you and your goals. Mm-hmm. So once that prep period is done, and then you get to the base period, depending on the person's goals, typically with clients, I recommend that they start adding in carbohydrates during their training. But with the caveat that they warm up first, so their muscles are going to use the carbohydrates, and it's not going to go through the bloodstream and the body's going to store it as glycogen. So usually wait until the muscles are warm and they're going to be using those carbohydrates. And then before the client cools down, they stop adding carbs. And when they are stopped, they don't add any fuel until they're completely cooled down. For a cyclist, that's about the time it takes to put up your bike and change your clothes, and then you revert back to full keto. And then when you get to the build phase, then you're starting to add in carbohydrates the meal before your training event. So it is adding to your glycogen stores, but you're still warming up without extra fuel, and then cooling down without adding extra fuel. And then post-event, you revert back to full keto. So it's not, I think it's super easy if you just follow the annual training plan or your training program to know when to time. Mm-hmm. Some athletes we tinker about when and how much to add, but that's sort of the general format. And I've had clients that one of my guys had never, he was in the back of the pack for a cycling event. He did a lot of time trials, and he started finishing first and second every race. And then he did a half Ironman and still did a time trial the next day and was able to get second after doing a half Ironman. What I love about coaching endurance athletes with this low carbohydrate ketogenic diet approach and nutrient timing is that their body is not torn down as much with adding in all the carbohydrates, so they bounce back so much quicker. They get the performance benefit from timing the carbohydrates, but without the damage that they typically see from a glucose dependent or a high carb endurance athlete.
So are you having them the nutrient timing post workout beforehand? Are they hungry, or do you wait till they're hungry, or what kind of sense?
Well, typically, many athletes are not hungry whenever they finish. And a lot of times they were told, like, you got to replenish your glycogen stores, which is automatically stopping that process of their bodies using up the carbohydrates that are in their system. And if you're glucose dependent or a nutrition company where you want them to keep using your product, that's a great strategy. But for a fat adapted athlete, that's not a good strategy if you want your body to bounce back and recover quickly.
That's what I always thought, I was questioning, what's this 30-minute window we have to eat right afterwards is, replenish our glycogen stores in our muscles. But if you're burning fat, you're burning some carb glycogen up too, but you're not hungry when you're done if you're fat burning. I find that clients that train way too high heart rate, they're more using up their muscle glycogen, then they're starving afterwards. But if you're a fat burning athlete, I won't be hungry right away. So Mom was wondering, okay, are we supposed to force ourselves to eat something, or just have a good superfood shake, or what? Because then I always wondered, all right, well, then I'm just throwing calories in there, but I'm not really ready for them yet. So it's this funny marketing that people get from like the chocolate milk and companies and everything else.
And this idea about not adding the calories before or after and just using them during training, that comes from Peter Defty. And he has helped some athletes like Zach Bitter break some world records, and Roman Bardet, him and Jonathan Edwards worked with Roman Bardet for a while, and he was able to get a second and a third, or a third, chronologically, a third and a second in the Tour de France. So those are, those strategies come from Peter, and I implemented them in my program, and it works great. Even Dr. or Professor Tim Noakes recommends that you don't eat until you're hungry after you're done training.
That's my natural instinct. I mean, it's just like, I'm not feeling like anything. Why am I going to throw something in there? So to me, that makes sense.
That's a marketing ploy. And if you think of carbohydrates as a performance enhancing drug, it makes a lot more sense. Because a performance enhancing drug, it meets all the criteria that if you overuse it, it's very damaging and becomes addictive. If you use it right and you time it right, it actually gives you a big bump in performance. And the great thing about carbohydrates, they're 100% legal. And if you train your body to become very insulin sensitive, it takes a very small amount of carbohydrates to really get a big bump in performance.
So let's kind of back up. We've talked about this other podcast on when we're talking about ketosis, ketogenic athlete, but just kind of summarize the benefits, why people should try to be ketogenic. I know it's starting to be off season. People are tinkering with, lower carb, higher fat. So what are some motivational reasons people should try to make this switch?
Big motivational reasons is to be a healthier human being. If you do a Google search, or not Google search, a search in PubMed.
There's so much junk out there.
Yeah, do a search in PubMed, and you can look at the diseases associated with insulin resistance. There are quite a few.
Yes.
Diabetes. There's an article in Outside Magazine by Alex Hutchinson talking about how so many endurance athletes are pre-diabetic or diabetic. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge one. Heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, dementia, mental acuity. There's really all the diseases associated with a modern Western diet are also associated with high sugar content. Mm-hmm. There are actually a couple articles about endurance athletes who have insulin resistance. Oh, and another one, gut health. We're talking about gut health. Athletes whose stomachs shut down during training, it's a big problem, especially for Ironman athletes and ultramarathon runners or extreme endurance cyclists. Their body just cannot manage that much sugar going through the system. And so their stomach shuts down. So training your body to become very, very insulin sensitive is almost like buying an insurance policy against having some chronic diseases and also making your gut very happy.
Yes, for sure. And I was at this FDN conference, and we had Dr. Tom O'Brien spoke via being in Switzerland, but he was on our screen on a conference call, and we were in San Diego, and he was talking about, as he does, gluten and wheat and effects on your body, but he gave us a handout, a link, and it had all 40, 50 articles of research showing how gluten affects gut health and inflammation and autoimmune disorders and, of course, the leaky gut syndrome. But it's interesting, if you know how to look for research, because Googling it, you're going to get the bad with the good.
It's like, right.
There's, it's like my sister, someone I know had gallbladder issues and had her gallbladder removed because she thought that was, what you do.
That's the worst.
I know, but you Google and everybody says stuff you read. So you have to be so careful what you find. But going back to the keto athlete, what's your definition of being more low carb, high fat athlete versus a strict in ketosis keto athlete?
My definition of ketosis is your body produces ketones. And you can test that in a blood or breath ketone meter. I don't recommend a urine ketone meter unless you're initially trying a ketogenic diet, because once your body is able to start using ketones as fuel, you're not going to see it in the urine. And it makes people a little depressed and crazy because they're like, I am following my diet exactly, but it's not turning purple.
And then they quit.
And then they quit. And really, you just bumped up to the next stage of ketosis. Initially, you spill ketones, but your body doesn't know how to use them. And then your body learns how to use them. So I recommend a breath or a blood ketone meter. And it's very individual for many people. I need typically less than about 75 grams of carbohydrates for me to show ketones.
Do you measure yours?
I do measure mine. I use a Keto Mojo.
Yeah.
Like ketone
your
meter.
Food, though, how many grams you're using?
Oh, yes. I'm a nut. I keep track of everything.
Doesn't that drive me nuts, though, if you diet? It's like I have a problem doing that personally because I dieted so much growing up that I was saying this on another show, that if I feel like I'm dieting, but I know I have to, be strict because I have insulin resistant issues from stress issues cause insulin resistance. And so I know to measure your ketones, use that Keto Mojo for my ketones, but just measuring what you're eating carbs, and I think it gets in my head a little bit. It does
make some people a little nutty. And for me, because I've decided to train for a figure competition, I don't do it all the time, but I am right now.
Yeah. So you learn about your body, how much your carb intolerance.
Right.
Or tolerance.
My husband, and he doesn't measure his food ever, but sometimes I make him measure just because I want to see where he's at. He's a naturally thin man. He eats a lot of garbage, actually. So he can, and I was telling Debbie, before we started the show, my husband's in ketosis when he can eat a big bowl of corn chips and then follow that up with a piece of cheesecake, and he's still producing ketones at 300 plus grams of carbohydrates in less than an hour.
Must be a magic keto cheesecake recipe.
Yes, it's from Walmart. Probably has some horrible oils in it too, but that's
why everyone's so different. That we talk in nutritional therapy as a practitioner, we talk about the bio-individuality, everybody, and the goal is to balance your blood sugar, not have your blood sugar spikes. We want to avoid insulin surges. So to train your body to use fat as its main fuel source and have the byproducts of breaking down, you're oxidizing your fat, you're going to have the ketones that you can use for brain fuel, make you feel that that's a focus, clarity, concentration part of it. But also for performance gains, it's the benefits of being a keto endurance athlete is so you can have, like you said, the last stomach stress, and you have a steady flow of energy as well as other benefits too, right?
Right. And increasing your fat oxidation rates.
Yes.
So fat oxidation is really the difference between I'm going to look up the actual study. It's the difference between a recreational athlete and elite athlete of how well you perform.
So fat oxidation, your oxidated fat rates is what you're looking at if you're keto to low carb, high fat, the difference, how the rate is.
You want to stretch out that fat oxidation rate as much as you can. You want your body to oxidize as much fat as possible in an hour. So if you look at the crossover point where like a lactic threshold test or anything like that, right? So you want to move that X over to the right, which I'm doing a little X in the video. You may not see.
This is why I miss our New Leaf that Lifetime Fitness bought New Leaf. When was I doing that metabolic efficiency training with Bob Seymour? I think it was 2013 or I think it got bought. But that's if you can get a metabolic efficiency test,
yes,
I think that is key for triathletes, endurance athletes, runners to get that done, to see what are you eating, like you're talking about that nutrient timing and all that, how you can move that RQ value so you're burning a higher percentage of fat later on. Is that similar to oxidative fat rate?
Yes, that's how much fat you're burning. Although a lot of people think whenever they get to that crossover point, they stop burning fat, and they don't. That's a fault of the test. So you're still burning fat when you start to produce lactate. It's just that when you take a test, it throws it off.
I used to print out the entire report when I did it. So I would look at all the data, not just the chart. So if anyone ever gets that done, say you want the full-on 10-page data recording. So then you can have someone that we would do, like go through and break it up and see where it is.
So the name of the study is like rethinking the role of fat oxidation, substrate utilization during high-intensity interval training in well-trained and recreational trained runners. The lead on the study is named Ken Heitle, Hetle.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll put in my show notes because I don't know how to pronounce his name. Sorry, Ken. And Daniel Plews and Paul Larson are also authors on the test, and they're pretty amazing coaches as well and researchers. So I'll put that in there. But basically, the difference in how well the main difference between the recreational trained athletes and the elite athletes was their fat oxidation rates. So if you can stretch your fat oxidation rates as wide as you can, make your body oxidize more fat, use fat for fuel, your performance will get closer to that of an elite athlete as opposed to a recreational trained athlete. And when you're consuming sugar all the time, you don't have to spend any part of the season with lower carbohydrates, you're basically turning off your ability to get better at burning fat. So that's why at least part of the season, you want to go pretty low carb or keto. You want to produce ketones. The whole season, you actually want to produce ketones, but later in the season, you can add them in. I feel like I'm talking gibberish.
So I keep interrupting because there's so many, I just always love talking about this topic for athletes because I think there's so many questions and everyone has different opinions. And, I was just looking up articles before we came on that, if you look up keto endurance athlete, triathlete, you got all these different stories as well. Mm-hmm. But I think it's not, your website, I've just met articles for triathletes and just get different stories. But I think I know when I was peaking Ironman in 2012, when I was doing my best, if you metabolic tested me, I was burning a ton of fat up to 162 heart rate. And I did that from the MAF type of training we did with Mark Allen for years. And when I switched to being more low carb and experimenting with what I learned about that, eating all these carbs didn't make sense, and doing more the like Generation UCAN I would do and Ironman. And, once you're not burning carbs, you just like, I'm not really hungry. I just could go drink water. And then in a race I did UCAN and I did raw Revolution bars, some like nut butters. But if it's a hot race, you might, fuel sources might change, but it's amazing is how you don't need to eat so much is my favorite benefit. that I don't have to take those gels. And I stopped doing that years ago because I just would throw up every race. So once you learn, the main benefit, going back to my question probably was what I would say main benefit is that I can eat less and don't have to worry about throwing all that stuff in there.
Yes. And it's a lot less work. You can focus on the race and not focus on a timer. When I've done one Ironman and I've done 5 halves. I know you've done quite a few more Ironmans.
Yeah, I'm the one that's messed up still, so I wouldn't be bragging about it.
I had a timer set for every 45 minutes to either eat or drink something to continually give my body fuel. And I was not a fast athlete. I finished just over 15 hours for my Ironman, and I was not healthy. If you look at pictures, especially profile pictures, my gut is so distended, and it's all from inflammation. Looking back, I realize, I think I've done most everything wrong. Or if you could say right to dig myself into a big hole. But I wish I could go back in time and really change the way I started to train. So if you take someone from a non-runner or a non-endurance athlete and then start them off right, they won't have the problems that you and I have had in our journey.
Well, and exactly that's what it is, a journey. And I say this, and I tell myself this, that if you didn't go through all this stuff that you did, sure, you wouldn't be where you are. And we go through things for a reason. And
right. I would not be a coach.
Yeah.
Yes.
We wouldn't be doing what we're doing now and focusing our businesses on coaching triathletes and working on, as I call it, the holistic method, and here's KetoEndurance, that we're working on the transforming the whole you from the inside out from our different angles of really optimizing your health. And if we didn't go through our experiences that we did, we wouldn't be here helping our listeners today. So I think even though, you had to go through, it's like, oh, I wish I did it differently. Well, you did what you did so you can do what you're doing now.
That's 100% true. Thank you. Yes, Debbie. And it's true. And my friend and I are actually starting a marathon training program here in Phoenix that really starts with a good foundation. Like, we're doing a posture assessment and corrective exercises. So before you even start running, you make sure you don't even have muscle imbalances, and then start with the nutrition right. And that's something that we're hoping will help athletes in our area, along with the clients that I currently coach, to really start on a good foot, or good foot forward, really avoid those pitfalls that I had and she had. She's run a number of ultra marathons, but now she has thyroid issues and has a heart valve problem, which is all are pretty scary things. And it's sort of, I think we are actually not that abnormal when it comes to endurance athletes who end up pretty broken.
Yep. So we're trying to help save all of our listeners do it right. And I said, running training, I always say to clients that to build the foundation first. So with all personal training clients, as well as triathlon clients and health client coaching, that you have to build the foundation up. So I totally agree with what you're doing. So going back to the other questions I had for you today,
let me pull them up.
Talking about when keto is not good for endurance athletes with hormone issues and adrenal fatigue, HPA axis, what's your thoughts on, who should not do it? Because I know some people say if you have a lot of hormone issue, I'm always on the fence because I know for my adrenal stuff, I'm insulin resistant and I have to do lower carb, high fat because I can't tolerate carbs.
Right. My thinking, my opinion about adrenal fatigue is, if you have adrenal fatigue, you should not be doing endurance sports.
No.
Right. You should be
35 to 45 minutes is your long workout.
Yes, that's what I believe. I believe you shouldn't be training. You shouldn't be going to hot yoga. You should be doing relaxation yoga. You should be working on your breathing exercises, and you should be keeping a gratitude journal and managing your time and figuring out where the leak is in your stress levels. So are you overcommitted at work? Are you too stressed out about your family? Like, what's your family situation? Mm-hmm. Are you training? There's so many factors, but I don't know, when it comes to chicken and egg, nutrition and lifestyle, those things just go together. You can't separate one without the other. And if you have adrenal fatigue, or even if you're just not recovering as well as you like, you shouldn't ever feel like, I'm so exhausted, I can't get out of bed. And I'll tell you, a lot of endurance athletes feel like, there's like this badge of honor that, like, I am so tired. I did a 12-mile run and now today I can't even barely function. I'm like, then you have a problem.
Yeah, let's brag about it.
Yeah, you should not be going on a 12-mile run. You should really address those issues. And if you have a good metabolic system and a good hormone balance, you should be able to go on a 12-mile run, and tomorrow you should feel like, I feel great. Mm-hmm. And if you can't say that, then you did something wrong.
Yeah. No, I say that in my book, Life is Not a Race. I figured out everything as I wrote it. It was more therapy writing that storybook of my life, but it was, hello, that's a red flag. And, that really stresses me out. Once you stop and assess and just take that time out to go, what's causing me stress? In mine, it wasn't racing as much as running my own business by myself in a high rent area in Bellevue, but it's like $1 gazillion a month I have to put out. So that constant stress when you have financial stress and running a business and always have to do that is always there. So I think for me, I always tell people exercise is the time to unplug and relax. So I think it's you have to learn about yourself and what sets you off and listen to your body. As I just did my HRV yesterday morning after having a good 2-night sleep. I was at a conference. I went to bed early and didn't have an alarm to get up in the morning, and my HRV and sweet beats went to 100 being, the higher end. And so I was at 92. And the other days I was like 62 and really low. So I was kind of getting worried that I need to shut things down a little bit. But then just, taking some time off and just resetting and rebooting your system, I think everyone needs to do more. So I think if you can track your heart rate variability and track some things to know if you're recovering after the workout, then you can tell. But as you're saying too, doing more of a keto style food plan is less stress in your body, and even making sure whatever type of ratio of macronutrients that you are burning fat, burning some ketones, but that it's that real food and not doing all the processed foods. Right. I see a lot of people getting into that. I'm doing keto. Like I have a client, his daughter and son-in-law are doing keto. So he's like ordering these things on Amazon that are keto. And so what happened to paleo is now going to what's keto is all these processed foods are labeled keto. And then you're ending up, as Atkins did, the processed foods and the bad vegetable oils and just a bunch of fillers in it instead of just, you know what, you can take Parmesan cheese and put it in the oven with coconut oil and make your own Parmesan crisps in 5 minutes. So anyways, it's just my rant, but I think there's just so much going on with this whole keto thing. People don't even know what it is. It's getting to be crazy popular.
Right. And I think that, can you hear me? Because I put it on mute because my dogs were going nuts.
You're back.
But I 100% agree. And another thing, if you type in keto space endurance, an article comes up from Chris Carmichael's company, and he has a article bashing keto.
Oh.
Yes. And he says it's all marketing because they want to sell ketone salts or ketone esters. Well, ketone esters are hard to come by, but ketone salts. And then, so I rewrote the article and posted it in the notes. I'm like, this is my take on keto in the article. But you don't ever need to add ketone salts. And actually, I recommend when you're adapting to a ketogenic diet, not to use ketone salts, because you want your body to benefit from that metabolic change. So if you're producing ketones from a drink and you see it in your blood or ketones and urine ketones, that's not your body learning that metabolic process.
Yeah.
So it's not, I think that's, you don't ever need any supplement ever to train your body to be in ketosis. You could never add a single supplement at all. In fact, I did a zero carb diet for a while. Right now, I'm not doing zero carb, which is all meat diet. I participated in a study and my body's producing ketones. I felt great. And you really don't need a lot of extra stuff. It actually becomes pretty cheap to eat that way.
Well, I find I don't go, during the week when I'm working, I just have one meal a day and I have, my fat coffee in the morning, but I'm not hungry. Once I eat my main meal middle afternoon, I'm still full at dinner time. So then you get into fasting automatically, intermittent fasting. And I find just when I'm eating more higher fat, low carb, I don't eat so much. And because if I go to the carbs, I'll eat, all right, I'm going to have those crackers or gluten-free, whatever. And then suddenly I'll eat the whole bag if I won't be full.
And it makes you, if you keep eating every so often, I feel like it makes me more hungry.
Yeah, no, that's why I don't like eating. Because once I start, then you're like, oh, I want to, you just don't get full. And it's that leptin, ghrelin.
Yes. Yeah, it's just like, hey, let's try to, food's available, let's consume it. I don't know if you know, but I used to be an archaeologist before I went into the fitness industry.
I did not know.
Yeah, until I had kids, and the archaeologist and good mother are not necessarily compatible if you do field work. So I decided I'd rather be a good mother than an archaeologist. But everything I think about nutrition or even exercise is based on, in my head, what did they do 5,000 years ago? Mm-hmm. What was a normal, thing? When you came across carbohydrates, you would probably want to consume a lot of them. So how perfect it is that they make you hungry.
Yeah.
Because they were not plentiful. And wouldn't you want to be able to consume a lot of them? Because then you could store more food. You could have a battery fat to help you get through the rough times, because you don't know when the next food source is coming. Yeah. And then if you eat a certain amount of meat, it makes you full. But then if you keep eating beyond that, it actually makes you hungrier again. And then you're able to convert that to sugar through gluconeogenesis and store it some more. I'm like, how perfect are our bodies designed that we have lost that because of of different marketing techniques. But, and if you like eating one meal a day, well, how perfect is that your body's able to slowly take fuel that you've stored and use it for your brain and your body to get around throughout the day, and you don't have any hiccups at all. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's like how perfect our bodies are made, that they're able to do that. And if we just listen to our bodies, it takes a while to listen to your body, because we have all this stuff in our head that we've been trained to think that, oh, I'm worried about this or worried about that, that once we start eating intuitively, our bodies do what they're supposed to. Like when you're busy and you don't eat all day and you're like, how perfect is that?
I know. That's why I like it when a work day. I'm like, oh, I don't have to eat and bring food with me. It's just easier. So we're running out of time already. It was just great chatting with you. But where can everyone find you and the programs and coaching that you have?
You can go to KetoEndurance.co/ KetoEndurance.co is my website. If you want to know the services, it's KetoEndurance.co/services. And I have coaching, I have training plans, and I have a course that's out. And I will add a little coupon code if you are interested in my course called, I'll call it Fitness Forward.
Let's do the whole athlete.
The whole athlete. Oh, I'll do the coupon code, the whole athlete, and it'll be 50% off.
Nice. Okay.
And if you sign up, when is this going out?
We should be September.
Okay. So I'll put by the end of September, if you sign up during the month of September, I'll even give you a 30-minute call to help you.
Wow, look at that.
Exactly where you are in your training plan. So we're, to time your nutrition. Yeah. I just think I started doing that with a lot of people signed up for the course, because they can watch the video, but then it's just as easy. Like, let me just do this for you. It takes like no time at all to set that up.
Good. Great. Well, we'll put that in the show notes. And I think this is a great time for people to start making some changes in their eating habits and start experimenting. It's kind of that good off-season based training prep season to do, and depending on what races you have next year. But I think we're both out there to help you take care of the whole you from the inside out and improve your performance in triathlons as well as daily life. And I'm all about improving the aging process down, slowing it down. As we're getting older, I'm not using the age as excuse, but I'm trying to get faster and stronger and healthier as I age, not the opposite. So,
right. And
thank you for sharing that passion.
You're welcome. And I have to tell you, I'm just turned 49, and this last year I had PRs in everything I did. I'm much faster than I have been at anything I've ever done.
Nice work. Well, good. That's exciting. Well, we'll definitely look at your information and share that program and get everyone learning a little bit more this year. So thanks for coming on, Stephanie. If you guys have any questions, go to our Facebook page, The Whole Athlete Podcast, and find me on Instagram, The Holistic Athlete. So let us know. You can find Stephanie there. And you're on Instagram or Facebook more?
I'm on both. I have a Facebook group called Keto for Endurance Athletes. And you can find me on Instagram at KetoEndurance. And you can find me on Twitter at SHOLBK.
That's a lot. I'm focusing on one. It's like too much going on all the time. So
I know.
It's like Instagram to Facebook page, and then respond to questions on there. You can reach me and I will respond. And I've had people email from there or email through the website. So we're trying to reduce sources of stress and things to do. So keep it simple.
I understand that 100%.
All right, everyone. I hope you have a great day and smile and have fun. Enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at wholeathletepodcast.com. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.